Hello, my name is David Bergantino. I'm the author of the book, Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and the writer of the upcoming game based on the film Killer Klowns from Outerspace. And right now, I'd like to introduce you to the narrative design pyramid. Using this model, I'll walk you through some simple steps so that you can create the best narrative design for your game. Think of it like an aquarium. Two things determine what fish can live in an aquarium: the size of the aquarium and the type of water. So if you have a tank of a certain size and salt water, for example, only certain fish can live in that tank. That makes the tank itself, with the water, the narrative design, and the story is the fish. Good narrative design is more important than ever these days, even for games that don't tell stories. So many games, large and small, share the same basic game design and mechanics, from casual mobile games to open-world adventures on consoles. And technology has reached a point that even a simple animated game can have Pixar quality, and big console games all have the epic feel of an MCU movie. So then how is somebody supposed to know the difference between your game and another game in the same genre? Well, art, of course, but there's also narrative design. And now, hopefully I'm not giving you mixed metaphor whiplash, but we're going to move on from the aquarium to the narrative design pyramid. Narrative design can be described as the relationship between four basic elements of a game: the core mechanic, player perspective, and environment. These three elements then converge at the top of the pyramid to define your narrative goal. Let's break this down and talk first about the heart of your game, of any game, the core mechanic. This is what makes your game a game. Back in the Pong days, all you needed was a line and a dot to hook your audience. It's a little different these days. Take Spider-Man, for example. His mechanics underpin the entire game. They define his character and also unite his game goals and his story goals, which are fight the bad guys, help the good guys. Then there are casual games. Even the simple choice of what pieces you're matching can give you a theme, which then guides the creative direction for the rest of the game, even if there's no story involved. With that in mind, let's turn to the next corner in the narrative pyramid, player perspective. Who or what is the player in the game? A person, a robot, an animal, a vehicle? Is this a predefined character, or has the player created an avatar? Or are they out of it entirely, like in a casual game? Is this a first-person perspective game or a third-person perspective? The answers to these questions, along with the mechanic, can tell the player what they're doing, why they're doing it, and how. But we still need more information, because how do we know if we're making a racing game, whether we're making something closer to Gran Turismo or Twisted Metal? Well, the next corner of the narrative pyramid will help us with that. So let's move on to setting or environment. Different genres require different types of environments. A fighting game, for example, may only need a series of individual arenas. Adventures, RPGs, first-person shooters often require large continuous areas, if not open worlds. Puzzle games are grids with graphics that adhere to a chosen theme. But beyond the physical dimensions, we need a setting and a time frame. Are we in the past, present, or future? Is this a real or fantasy world? Sci-fi, horror, steampunk? What's our genre? But like mechanic and player perspective, these decisions don't exist in a vacuum either. So this is where we bring it all together, at the apex of our narrative pyramid, the narrative goal. The narrative goal combines your mechanic, player perspective, and environment to tell the player why they are playing your game and what they will achieve by doing so. This is different from game goals, which can be as simple as win or beat the game. But what, besides winning, motivates the player to finish your game? For example, the game goals of a fighter are pretty clear. Win X number of rounds and become champion. Easy. But why is that character fighting in the tournament in the first place? To become ruler? To save the universe? To avenge the death of a spouse? These are all narrative goals. And in a fighter, the game goals and the narrative goals tend to be fairly closely related. However, in certain larger games, like RPGs or third-person adventures, certain sets of mechanics can be used to express any sort of story. This is where heavy-duty narrative design and creative development help create unique, immersive worlds. You may be wondering, of the 4 points, how and where do I start building my narrative design pyramid? The answer, of course, is wherever you want. Games being games, you often start with the core mechanic and go from there. You try to come up with interesting and fun new scenarios around jumping, or fighting, or even matching. You can also start with player perspective, even skip straight to character and take it from there. Spider-Man is an example of this. His character requires certain mechanics, like climbing and web slinging. This then drives the rest of the story and the game. Sometimes the environment can drive the experience. Take the game Abzu, for example. It's set entirely underwater, which not only implies a particular set of mechanics, it's what gives the game its unique look and feel. Its mysterious, ethereal quality pervades the entire narrative as well. Or you can start with your narrative goal, like in Uncharted, which allows you to play an Indiana Jones-style movie. This story-led creative approach then gives us a specific type of character in Nathan Drake, and mechanics that, while not innovative, both fit the narrative and are very highly polished. Once you've picked a starting point, that will lead to your next choice, then your next choice, until you've built your narrative design pyramid. Remember, like most aspects of games, narrative development is iterative. You will constantly be calibrating and recalibrating based on the realities of your production process, budget, and schedule. Now, once you've built it, there are several more elements to consider to fully develop your story world. Some of these are: first, your audience. Who will buy your game? You will need to balance your unique perspective and the fact that you are not making a game for yourself, but for people to buy and play. What storytelling tools are best for your game? What visuals make the most sense? Pre-rendered cinematic scenes or comic book panels? What audio works best? Fully performed voiceover or stylized non-language like the adults in a Peanuts cartoon? And here's a big one: music and sound effects. Well-designed audio can do a lot of storytelling without words. Text. Is your audience even old enough for text? How can you use it effectively so that it's the right amount for your game? RPGs, for example, can be very text-heavy, and it's something the audience expects. A kart racing game, though, not so much. These are just some of the elements you need to consider during creative development. Importantly, they don't just affect your game's narrative, but the budget, schedule, and its marketability. This may not sound as fun as just writing a cool story, but these are all important to keep in mind. Now, let's rewind a bit. To sum up, your narrative design starts with 4 basic elements: core mechanics, player perspective, and environment, which converge into your narrative goal. You can start with whichever one you want. Consider your audience and the storytelling tools that fit your game and budget. Prepare to iterate on it the way you do in most aspects of game development. And voila, you're on your way to the right narrative design for your game. Thank you for watching.